Hey guys, I'm going to talk to you about a project I did a few years ago. The church we were going to at the time had chairs that were, they're just stackable chairs, the kind that you typically see in some modern churches. But they didn't have any type of holders on the back to hold pamphlets like visitor cards, offering envelopes, pens, anything like that. So the church had kind of gotten in the habit of just putting these, they were Avery label type things. You would stick them on the back of a few pews on each row, and then the problem is they would tear up, they would come loose. So then people were stapling them to the back of the chairs. It was really a mess. It just looked tacky to me. I couldn't stand it. So I had done some research and found quite a few different options available on Google, but the problem was all the options I could find were anywhere from 4 to 8 to 12 to $20 a pop, and we really didn't have a budget for this. We needed a little over 100. I think it was around 120 is what we would need to provide three, per row, and having one on each end and maybe one in the middle or maybe two in the middle. I think it was around 120 we needed. And, we didn't have a budget for that. So I said, well, I'm going to come up and make something to do this myself. So I went to Home Depot and got some red oak, relatively inexpensive. I think I paid at the time about $40 for the wood. And you can see I just cut it in small pieces. I don't have the dimensions anymore of what I used, but you can see just the standard piece of wood there, no big deal. Kind of created a jig, I guess I would call it, to I'm going to say route out the middle section where the pamphlets and envelopes would go. I didn't use a router. That would be probably a better option than what I did. I created the jig here with the dado blade on my table saw and just create a backstop and some side pieces to kind of guide it. So I could move it up, inside of what's routed there, pull it back and move it over and just keep pushing it up into the dado blade to create the missing section there. And actually, this is one of the sketchiest things I can remember doing on my table saw. At this point, this table saw was an old Craftsman that I had for 15 years or so. I've since bought a saw stop job site saw, so at least if I was to do something dumb like this again, I could hopefully, if something did screw up, I'd protect myself a little bit. But as you can see there, it's not perfectly clean on the bottom, but it really doesn't matter. That part's facing the back of the chair, and it's kind of where the envelopes go. Once I had the middle section kind of cleaned out there, created a little jig just to hold the piece so I could drill. And it was kind of hard to see on that picture, but that is a spinning drill bit about to go into the side there. And you can see on this picture, that's kind of what I was doing, is putting a pin holder on each end of the pamphlet holder. And then just for looks, I took a cove bit on the router, set up my router table, and was able to kind of take out a little piece on the side just to give it a little decorative feel. And also it made it the fact that I needed shorter screws. I didn't end up using, just for the sample, I used silver screws. I ended up going to Rockler and buying black screws. Now, obviously, when you're attaching this to the chair, that is one of the most critical parts you're going to need to do, is make sure you've got the perfect length of screws. You want them long enough to really dig into the back of the wood of the chair out. Don't just go into the cloth, but you don't want it long enough to go through the chair and come out the cushion and stick into people's backs. So definitely make sure you play with that and get the correct size there. And here I've got a few of them set up just to kind of test out what they would look at. And here is the first one where I put it on a chair just for a test. I hadn't painted it yet at this point. Just getting it to see how it looked on a chair and kind of get approval from the pastor and the board and everybody that they were happy with the way it looked. And then I went through and just finished making them. I made about 120, I believe, and really embarrassed at how junky my shop looked at the time. I can't say it's much different now though, but I did paint these. I sanded them first. That sanding jig there that's the first video I ever did on YouTube, like 12 years ago or something, when I made that sanding jig. To me, that was a cool thing at the time. But anyway, Like I say, I think the wood for this project was about $40. It was a pretty good deal. And here's a picture of them that are actually painted. I don't have a picture of a painted one installed. That's any, you can really see anything, but that's kind of what it looks like. It was really, they look black, but it was really a dark brown. And the thing I love about the paint, and it was just spray paint right out of a can. I think I bought 2 or 3 cans at Home Depot, and I was able to spray all 100 of them. It went really quick, but it still allows the wood grain to come through, and I just love the look of them. And to me, they looked really great once they were installed. I mean, of course, a few of the people kind of complained because, now there were, you had to have these chairs put in a certain position. And when we, were using the sanctuary for something else and we had to stack all the chairs, when it was time to unstack them and put them back, you had to kind of pay attention to what chairs were on the end and where you were putting the middle chair. But, it just is what it is. And I mean, what would church be if there wasn't somebody complaining, right? No, but anyway, it was a fun little project. I think it saved some money, and it definitely was a big improvement over those paper envelopes that were on the back of the chairs before I started. So again, to me, it's kind of a process of, yes, this is talking about this specific project and how I did it, but it kind of shows a little bit of the way, you're setting up jigs and creating jigs when you're building a project that you're going to repeat hundreds of times like this. And even I also built the jig. I didn't talk about this, but when I was putting them on the back of the chairs, I built a small jig that fit in the chair perfectly. It fit in between the 2 side braces and the top of the chair, and then I could just slide the pamphlet holder in there and screw it right in where it was, so I didn't have to measure each individual one, and they all ended up in exactly the same position. So again, just a fun project. One of those things I enjoy spending my time doing. But I would love to hear your comments, and if you've got, send me a link to another video where they're doing something similar. I'd love to watch it. Go ahead and subscribe, guys. Just going to do more and more videos on things like this that I've done now and done in the past, and try to get some content out there. But thanks. You have a good one, guys.